Live right here on the early line on this Tuesday following the end of a 2023-24 NBA season. Hey, the draft is next week, 8 days away, a two-day event now in the association. The 2024 NBA draft, round number 1 on a Wednesday night next week. Round 2 ends things out on Thursday. In the coming days, Donnie's big board will be up and firing for Zachary Riza-Shea and Alexander Sarr, the battle of who will be the number 1 overall picks to the Atlanta Hawks. But DRS, as we take an early look, and we'll discuss when Hour 3 gets underway, at the title odds for next year, the Boston Celtics expected to be back on the mountaintop in just a season. 3-1. The price on the C's, half the price of everybody else in the field, and then some. The Denver Nuggets, 2 years ago now, the NBA champs at plus 750. The Timberwolves continuing the optimism at plus 850. The Mavs, a 9-1 number, fourth best price, and the Bucks and the Thunder tied for that fifth best number at 10-1. But the Celtics already such a short favorite to win next year's NBA championship.
Yeah, so you're almost looking at it the same way you did probably mid-season this year. Like, well, the Celtics are such a cheap price. I can't take it now, even though the next words out of our mouths are, well, they're probably going to win the championship anyway. So the price point shouldn't matter if you feel they're going to win. Now, granted, you'd like it to be 7-1, 8-1, 9-1, and higher than 3-1 here. But let's also keep in mind, you've pointed this out multiple times, Ben, the amount of games that the Boston Celtics have played. And you can even go back to preseason, regular season, and then obviously in the postseason at this point, well over 100 games. That's a long streak. And also the mental edge that it takes to finally get that first NBA championship, the decompression that you're going to have over the summer. And before you know, like, we're in the middle of June right now. NBA training camps get fired up and get underway in September. It's not as if it's like, okay, see you in like 5 or 6 months here. Let me rest and be relaxed. Guys are going to get surgery. Guys are going to have to revamp up in the offseason. It's hard to win the championship, and other teams now see you and put that bullseye on your back. You don't think the Eastern Conference, which obviously the Milwaukee Bucks, Philadelphia 76ers, and New York Knicks aren't going to improve their teams to try to take down the Boston Celtics? Of course they will. Having said that, what have you done for me lately? The Celtics were the best team in the NBA this year. They just won the championship. Rightfully so. They're a heavy favorite to win it next year. The question is, should you take and select that 3-1 price here moving forward? I don't know if I like that so much, but if you ask me, who's going to win it next year? It's probably going to be the Celtics, but you're going to get a much better Eastern Conference next year as long as some of these teams stay healthy.
And there's already a super large distinction within the Eastern Conference. Boston plus 125 is the Eastern Conference title favorites. Next best number, the Milwaukee Bucks. And then you fall things off to the Sixers beyond that. Now our coach is here. James Young, JY, joins us on this Tuesday morning to look back at game number 5 of the NBA Finals and the end of an NBA season. JY, thanks for being here on the early line.
I don't know if it's the end of a season or a funeral or whatever it was, but guys, Ben, you called it. That wasn't good last night. That's not the way I thought Dallas was going to go out. It was a pretty bad effort, I would say, on their part.
A celebration and a coronation, if you are in Beantown, not quite a funeral for championship number 18, the most ever in the history of the association. 106-88, the victory in game number 5. The Celtics cover as a 7-point home favorite. JY, we just talked about Boston's odds for next year. Already a short NBA championship favorite. Last year, entering this offseason, the Celtics were a preseason co-favorite alongside the Bucks. By the time we reached the NBA All-Star break, the short solo favorite and a very short favorite at the start of the postseason. But oftentimes in life, whether it's professional sports or otherwise, you set expectations for something, and it's hard to rise to the occasion. Boston, all year long, matched that level of expectation. How did this year's Celtics team get it done?
Simply put, their ability to defend, and obviously the fact that they had a bunch of guys that were capable of going off. Let's be honest. The trades for Kristaps Porzingis, I know he was hurt in the finals, and Jrue Holiday, it was exactly what Boston needed. They needed a top-notch guard in the backcourt, and needed a rim protector at the center position. Also, a rim protector that can stretch the floor and shoot the ball from 30 feet also helps you out a little bit. But, Ben, they were by far and away the best team. Now, we can't sit here now and say, well, this team had this guy hurt. This guy had this team had that guy hurt. They went 4-1, 4-1, 4-0, 4-1. They dominated teams. They were the best team in the NBA. And I think what makes it interesting now is a team that has underachieved for so many years, they're relatively young. So now this could be, Ben, the start of the next great dynasty in the NBA with the age of the core of this team, the coaching of Joe Mazzulla, and obviously Brad Stevens kind of, finding the right players to fit around that the core guys.
Yeah, it's a great organization nonetheless. Like we talked about, like even though that hasn't been made in multiple championships, let's just say over the past 25 years, but every year they're right on the cusp of doing big things. They finally get over that hurdle. Yeah. But if we do take a quick look here at Brown and Tatum in the finals here, pretty much an even matchup, but even more about betting the series itself was betting on who the MVP was actually going to be in the NBA finals. And it turned out it was Jaylen Brown over Jason Tatum. Watching that series all the way through and the heavy price points here that you were getting on Brown, and he finally comes through. I didn't agree with it. How did you feel that broke down between Brown and Tatum here on who was going to win that award?
Well, I thought that if we were going to get a Jason Tatum near triple-double, that he was going to surpass him. Well, he got 31, 11, and 8. I don't know what else it had to do. Listen, you can look at the fact that, he didn't shoot the ball well, blah, blah, blah. The last 3 games, he was absolutely dynamic when he had to. Game 4, he played limited minutes. But games 3 and games 5, he was really, really good. Now, I know Brown hit some shots, but to me, the way Tatum closed, I thought with the performance last night, he should have gotten the MVP. Maybe on to next year, I guess. But the good thing about Tatum is he was happy more than anything to get the ring. That was most important to him.
We'll continue to look back on how this season came to a close, where Dallas fell short, and what it all means for a new NBA season on the horizon after a long offseason and dramatic summer ahead in the association. We'll do that next, live right here on this Tuesday on the Early Line on SportsGrid. Back right here live on this Tuesday on the Early Line on SportsGrid. The Boston Celtics, an NBA champion once again for the first time since 2008, but for the 18th time all time in franchise history. The most ever in the history of the association, a historic season for the Celtics. One built, JY, not only on the duo of Jays. Jaylen Brown drafted 3rd overall in 2016. Jason Tatum drafted 3rd overall in 2017. But the offseason acquisitions of Drew Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis, Derek White coming up clutch time and again, a roster constructed by Brad Stevens that reaches the pinnacle once more. It was that balance and depth for Boston that we thought was a huge key in this series. Could it outweigh the best player in the series, Luka Doncic? And in fact, it did, and did so in only 5 games. When you look at the end of this season for the Dallas Mavericks, coming up short in the NBA Finals, what was the reason?
3-point shooting, particularly of their star players. And we talked about it. I know that they did not get crushed at the 3-point line, but they didn't win the battle in game number 5 either. And when you can't go into a situation, Ben, where your 2 top players shoot that poorly from 3. Luke and Kyrie combining to shoot 5 for 14. A lot of those were in the second half. Right. So they did not get off to the start that I thought they needed. I thought it was a situation where they needed to play with the lead. They did not play with the lead. Kyrie Irving, let's be honest, he struggled, and he struggled mightily in those 3 games in Boston. Maybe he needs to have a peace offering to the leprechaun, because now it's 13 straight games that he's lost at Boston since he stopped doing it. And Ben, it seems like it ain't getting closer. The margins of losses are getting bigger and more important. So Kyrie's got a little work to do with some demons over there in Boston. But at the end of the day, it was what we talked about, right, before the series. Luke and Kyrie have to be so much better than Tatum and Brown in regards to their matchup versus the matchup of, the next level guys of Boston and obviously Dallas. But that didn't happen. It didn't happen. Sometimes it wasn't even. Sometimes Boston won it. So for them, their 2 have to be better. But Dallas as a whole has to do better, particularly shooting the ball from 3. It'll be interesting what kind of offseason they have. Nico Harris did a good job at the trade deadline. What does he do this offseason to improve the roster?
Yeah, it will be interesting to see because I do think they were a better team than they were last year, and certainly adding on some more pieces to depth can make some sense. But if we did take a look at the NBA Finals, chances to win it in 2024, 2025 at the FanDuel Sportsbook, it's the Celtics at a 3-1 price here. The Dallas Mavericks enter in at a 9-1 price. So let's just talk quickly about the Mavericks in the offseason. Coach, if you were the GM, what changes would you like to see for the Dallas Mavericks to try to get over the hump next year?
Well, let's be honest. Their bench play has got to be much better. Tim Hardaway Jr., who makes big money, obviously he was banged up this year. He's got to be better. I would look for another. I think you look at, do you move Lively into the starting lineup? And I think they need more three-point shooting here. This is a team that can do things, obviously, in regards to scoring with Luke and Kyrie, but you need better guys around them that are consistent three-point shooters to stretch the floor and give them driving lanes to attack. I think you got the lob threat with Lively and maybe with Gafford, but three-point shooting is going to be key. They need better shooters, and they need more bench play because, let's be honest, they rely so heavily on these two that they can't compete unless both of them are playing at an extremely high level.
The Celtics a short favorite already for next year at 3-1. The next best price is the Denver Nuggets. That's double Boston and then add on $1.50. This year, the Celtics were a preseason co-favorite. They matched the level of expectation that was anticipated in Beantown. Will the Celtics do the same in 2024-25?
They certainly are lined up to do so, Ben. But let's see what comes out of the West. What happens with Denver? Do they come back in a bad mood? Minnesota, do they take the next step in maturity? Oklahoma City, Presti's got so many draft assets. What does he push his chips to the center of the table to make that next run? What happens with the Clippers? By the way, shout out to Jeff Van Gundy getting back into the coaching ranks, jumping on Ty Lue's staff. That is a nice little nugget I think I saw this morning that could be beneficial. So it'll be a lot of interesting offseason. But like you said, Ben, we ain't got a lot of time. It seems like soon training camp's going to be coming up again.
8 days until the NBA draft. You know what our charge is here the rest of the basketball offseason? Get JY a job on one of these flashy new coaching staffs around the NBA if we can. Fade away to the break.
Kick them off the network.
End out the NBA season and hour 2. Hour 3 of
I'll
that.
do both.